is a
like,
busy day for me.
interesting, I haven't heard my phone ding or buzz or anything. It's at home, plugged in.
My battery crapped out on
Just
the
in
boat,
case
so I
somebody
went out and
decides to
bought a
call
new
me.
battery.
Yeah, I got the house to myself all week.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Where do you go?
So it's frat party at
Oh,
Warren's
okay.
house, is that it?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, well, I got to come
Oh,
in all
geez.
day Saturday, so.
Where's he
I went
working?
To the hunting cabin.
Oh.
He says,
Because that's what I did for 20 years. I was with the federal, well, not as a meat inspector, but as a
"There Sunday
veterinarian.
morning to hook up and pull you home. That's as much as I'm
Yeah.
doing.
Why would you want to go wood this week? It's so hot.
Well, by this weekend it's gonna be nice.
It'll be all right. Yeah, I was just looking. It's like, all right, we're gonna be back in the 80s,
For a high
mid
and low
80s.
humidity.
Yep.
Oh, that's better.
The humidity, actually Friday's only a high of 76 or something,
Oh, yeah. Yep.
That's got 80 on here,
80, yeah, so.
but that's way better than 90.
Yeah.
And live with 80.
My truck sits out in the parking lot in
Yeah.
Maryland, and I got in it, and I looked at the temperature, and it said 100, and I'm going, I know it's not 100, but it
No,
feels
I
but
ended,
it
I
sure
ended my
feels
career
like
as
it.
a
especially in
regional
the
trainer.
cab. Oh,
And I was based out
I
of
made the
Dallas,
mistake of leaving my
Texas,
keys in the car.
but
so
really I
could
worked for
not start
Washington
to get
DC.
the AC
And
going.
every time I
My
flew
kids
into
couldn't even
DC,
handle,
my
like,
boss told
30
me, she
seconds
says,
of waiting for
you don't
me
take
to
any
get in and
shuttles.
start the
She
car.
says,
They're
we have a
like,
private
"We're waiting out
driver.
here."
I had a chauffeur-driven limo pick me up at the airport and take me back. She says, it's like $5 more than a cab ride. She says, we may as well use this guy. And she gave me his card so I could call him anytime I'd have a ride, yeah. That was fun. That was great. I got to travel all over the U.S. and teach pathology and federal law. It was fun.
yeah, okay, then you're working by yourself,
Yeah.
because I'm going out.
The cafeteria wasn't so bad if the humidity wouldn't have been so high.
Oh, boy.
Because I sat in there
Oh,
and like within
jeez.
the first 15 minutes, I'm like, I'm sitting and sweating.
Can you imagine if I could possibly?
I go over
No.
to Studio 71 Salon over
No.
there.
Couldn't get in there, they were all booked up.
Wow.
Shade, right?
Yeah,
So it looked stupid without.
yeah.
DNR did not spray. The DNR did not spray Sauk Lake this year.
Nope, they
Did
canceled
not
it.
know that until I asked Minnow, what's up with all these weeds when we were out there this week.
No, the
What do they do, charge you by the inch?
Not enough weeds to justify it.
They said that it's right at
Well,
the
that's
level they
not
want it to be.
Yeah, so they
Do you know what my haircut costs?
abolished the idea of
Pay
watershed
$140
and based on
every 2 months I go in. Well, there's 2 different colors and it's style,
Anymore.
set.
for this.
They
Well,
do
they
the
should-
eyebrows,
they'll look at
everything.
next year they'll
I give
do
her
it
a
again.
check for
Take another
140
survey.
every 2 months,
But
but I
the
think
ones-
maybe that's too low.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
In front of Nelson's too.
Yeah. Spend as much time.
Close enough.
I call it close enough.
Sure, yeah.
Are you ready?
How's that?
Call the meeting to order. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, all members are present. Approval of the agenda. Is there any changes to the agenda? Do I have a motion to approve the agenda with, as presented?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Dave, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Heidi. Call the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. Approval of the minutes, June 21st, 2017, regular meeting. You received them in your packet. Is there any changes, corrections, clarification? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the June 21st, 2017 meeting?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Diane, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Dave. Call the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. This now brings us to our public open forum. Is there anyone here that would like to speak to the council? Is there anyone here that would like to speak to the council? Is there anyone here that would like to speak to the council? Seeing no one, our public open forum is closed. We have no public hearings. That takes us to reports and presentations. Personnel Committee report.
Okay, the Personnel Committee met on Tuesday, June 27th. They had a few things on their agenda. They reviewed and recommend the advertisement for the part-time police officer, which you have on your agenda for later, as well as the appointment of a chaplain. And they did discuss some long-term staffing needs at the police department, which we'll be talking about at budget time. And then also we are going to upcoming union contract negotiations. So those are things that the Personnel Committee will be working on in the near future.
Questions? Okay. Policy Committee report.
The Policy Committee as well, they met on Wednesday, June 28th, and that would be Diane and Dave, and the other two was Warren and Heidi on the personnel. And so we discussed the potential 2 a.m. liquor sales hour extension. That's an agenda item that you have this evening. And we talked about the deferred assessments. The council had sent that to them at a prior council meeting, and they have a recommendation on that. And then we're also need to start talking about potential amendments to the special assessment policy and how that's going to affect long-term ability of the city to do projects. So you have 2 action items from the Policy Committee.
Questions? Comments? Okay. Move on to 6C, Park Board report.
The Park Board met today at 5 p.m. because yesterday was the 4th of July, which would have been their regular meeting. The biggest thing on their agenda was rental agreements with Sauk Center Youth Hockey Association and also Sauk Center Public School District, and this would be agreements for the use of ice time and established rates at the arena. It'll be on the City Council for the agenda at the next council meeting, so you'll get more details at that point. Unfinished business, the shoreline restoration project at the campground. We're still waiting for the contractor. We're ready to plant as soon as he gets here. Talked a little bit more about the dog park and the resident that's trying to spearhead that project, and also some repairs at the arena parking lot to try to buy a few more years of use out of that. Informational items, we're not positive yet, but the DNR's been in contact with us about our fishing pier, and we may be in the running for a replacement fishing pier. Stearns County Parks has provided us with a bike repair station that's located on the Wobegon Trail, right by the Sinclair Lewis Avenue intersection there. And they received money from a donation from the Lions, and then they bought bike repair stations for 7 cities, I think, in Stearns County on the Wobegon Trail. And I'm sure you've seen that the bandshell mural is underway as parking, and the most updated design is the one that is on the bandshell Facebook page. And so that is the most current design, and that's the one that's going in right now. So that's the items for the Park Board.
Questions? Comments? Okay, we move on to action items. 7A, approve advertisement for part-time police officer.
Okay, this was the Personnel Committee, which I said was Warren and Heidi. They met on Tuesday the 27th to discuss the hiring of an additional part-time officer. The purpose of the position would be to have another officer available to take shifts when full-time officers are on vacation or sick time or court time. And that's the issue that we're having right now is the officers are all up against their maximums on vacation because they can't get time off because they don't have someone to fill their shift. So the committee recommends that the city advertise for the position and bring the preferred candidate back for approval. So what the committee's recommending is that we approve the advertisement for the part-time police officer.
Comments?
Just one question. I'm just wondering, would this alleviate any of the strain, the extra strain that would probably result of the 2 a.m. closing of the bars?
I don't think it was that hard.
Okay, this is strictly for vacation and fill in for, okay. That was the only question I had. I was doing a little research and I knew this was on the agenda as well. And
This is just try to pull the officers are maxed out, and it's just with the jobs the other part-timers have, it's nice to have another person to be able to call that they feel more comfortable trying to alleviate trying to get a whole shift off instead of taking a couple hours here and there and getting their shifts, which is leaving us down to a one-man officer who should have doubled up. And I feel that's an officer safety issue.
Thank
Yep,
you.
thank you.
Also, one of the things that Brian met with Heidi and I and stated was, he thinks that basically the cost of having a part-time officer would basically equal out to what we're spending in overtime for our other officers. And it'll help the scheduling, so. Any other questions or comments? Do I have a motion to approve the advertisement for a part-time police officer?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Heidi, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Diane. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. Approve appointment of police chaplain.
Okay, in the past, the city had an appointed police chaplain as part of the department. They assist with the more sensitive issues that arise for the officers and for the public. This is unpaid position. This could include assisting with death or injury notices, there's issues of emotional stress issues, et cetera, and would free up the officers to actually conduct police activities. The Personnel Committee reviewed the past uses of a chaplain, and they recommend that the city proceed with the appointment of a chaplain. Corey Erickson from Sauk Center has taken classes with the Emergency Chaplain Training course. He's had his NIMS training, and he will also be taking first aid and CPR. So we're very lucky to have him in our community, and for him to have stepped forward with and expressed a desire for that position. So the Chief Fredericks does recommend that Corey Erickson be appointed as chaplain for the department. So that is our request of you this evening.
Questions, comments? I just have one. I think we're very lucky to have someone that took the initiative to do all the training and everything like that on their own, and after they get it, come and request to be part of it. So to me, it would just be a plus for the community and the police department. So do I have a motion to appoint Corey Erickson as chaplain for the Sauk Center Police Department?
So moved.
We have a motion by Keith. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Dave. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. Approve ordinance 774, amending city code regulating hours of liquor sales.
Okay, at the June 21st meeting, the request to allow bars to remain open until 2 a.m. was presented to the City Council, who referred the request to the Policy Committee. The Policy Committee met on Wednesday, June 28th, and they discussed the proposal, and I listed some of the pros and cons that we spoke of. The pros would allow the bars to be open late should they choose to do so for a potential revenue stream. And also, it would give the customers the option to stay in town versus going elsewhere if they were actually leaving town to go to another bar that did allow it. The potential cons for it would be shift changes for the police department, which could push the shift later, including a later start, so the whole shift could rotate. That's a potential con. 1 extra hour of open bars may result in more police issues. We don't know that for sure, but that's a possibility. Parking on the street after 2 a.m. may impact street maintenance and snow removal activities. We'd have to make sure anybody going to stay after 2 would have to park in the parking lot and not on the street. And also, there would be a cost to the bars for the license from the state. The cost from the state would be between $300 to $1,000, depending on their gross sales, and that's set by statute. And then they would recommend the $200 fee for the city. So I did present to you ordinance 774, which would amend the liquor ordinance if you choose to do so. You have that option, or the other option is no action, which would leave the city code unchanged. So I have it in here both ways to give you the pros and cons for discussion and for action.
Okay. Questions, comments?
Well, I met with Chief Fredericks, and I also met with some of the other officers, and I'm not for creating more problems. If they have domestic assault calls 1 hour after the bars close, they can do that now, but if they move it to 2 o'clock, then we're going to have problems with these calls coming in at 3, which is a shift change for the police department. And I don't want to encourage people to be drinking till 2 a.m. I just don't. I don't see, when Dave and I met, we didn't see how they could profit from this. If they got oh, okay. Well, I mean, if they have to fork out $1,300 for this license for an extra hour, then they also have to pay the help to stay there. And is the revenue going to generate enough to cover that cost, and we really didn't see where it would.
You mean 300?
Well, 300 is the
It's not
minimum.
That's the
1,300,
minimum, that's the
right.
minimum. But then there's a $200 fee to the city, too.
Well, that's only if we pass that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the city fee is what it is.
Yeah.
But the state fee was 300, and we think that the bars in town probably will get the next tier, which was, I
Yeah.
think, through
750.
750, I think,
750.
wasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the 300 is only $100,000 a year in sales.
Yeah.
That's not a lot of sales for a year. I mean, that's, $300 a day for a bar. That's not much for gross sales.
No.
It's hard for me to imagine that they're not gonna make past that threshold.
Right.
But that's beside the point. I mean, I question how it would work for them, but that's their call, not ours. I'm not necessarily in favor of it, but I don't know that we're discouraging people who want to have a drink until 2. There's places they can go do it, they can go home and have another drink.
Yeah.
I think we had a talk. I don't really see much of an upside if a bar is struggling to make it. I just don't see how this is going to make that much of a difference with the city fee and the state fee. City
Yep.
fee is an
Yep.
option,
I agree.
but that's their call.
Right, that's a business decision that we can't make. If they feel they can do it. The parking on the street after 2 AM, basically on street maintenance and snow removal activities. The only time we do bring our guys out is if there's a major snowfall.
Or the wind rowing,
And
Yeah, winter.
Yeah.
winter,
issues.
yeah.
wind rowing, I mean,
Right,
when
but,
they're moving.
I think our
Drifting.
guys come in at 2, right? Or do they come in at 1 and they hit the streets at 2?
We start late at 1 and we're going by 2.
Okay, all right. And I'm looking at the number of snow activities that we have on an average. We may have a very heavy snowfall winter where we're gonna be out, but otherwise, basically, you're looking at maybe 5 times in the winter time, we might be out at 2 in the morning that this is gonna affect. So I don't know how that would work.
This is less of an issue, I think. It's just one of those things where we talked about it and said, well, I think the parking limit stays because, if they need to get out and clear the street, they need to get out and clear the street.
Right,
Those cases probably have gotten a snow emergency call and stuff anyway, so, it maybe isn't a big deal.
Right.
It's just one of those where we don't automatically open the streets up for parking later
Right.
just because there might be a bar open.
right.
Just something to be aware of,
Yeah.
not
One of the things is I looked at the police department annual report. And I know it was mentioned at the last council meeting about fights and stuff like that. The police department annual report last year in 2016 we had 9 fights. Of course, that doesn't necessarily mean it's bar related. Even if you add the disorderly conducts onto it, which doesn't necessarily mean it's bar related, it only comes up to 26. So you're looking at 26 events out of 365 days. I don't know if that, plus the other thing I looked at in the police report is the on-call history, or the hour, the calls they get based on the hourly. After 11 o'clock, it starts to slide, all the way down to very minimal by 3 in the morning. Is that gonna change if it's already sliding and out, going down after an hour and a half before the bars close now at 1 o'clock? Is that hour gonna make a difference? I know I'm trying not to sound like I'm pro bar equipment, but I'm looking at this, the fact, this is a business that's paying taxes.
right. No,
And,
I look at the backside of our police force, knowing how well they work right now, the way it is with the shifts that they have. Could the potential of an increase in calls mean that the shifts then change, which means then we have the possibility of losing somebody in our force because the shifts don't work with their family, don't work with, what's going on the backside of things.
and this is one of these things, I don't know, maybe we try it for a year. We can always change it back, as far as I know.
Well, we can change it back, although I think that's
Well, once they pay
probably
the
a
fee for a
problematic thing.
year.
Yes, I agree.
But I think that, I'm not really in favor of keeping the bars open. On the other hand, I don't think it's that big of a deal.
Right.
They're open till 1. They'll be open till 2. It means a little bit of shift changing for the police. We asked Brian to give us a fair estimate of what kind of cost that would be to the police department because of that extra hour of bars. And that's where we got the $200,
Right,
which
which would cover it.
is, for a whole year is not
Yeah.
really much of an expense for the police. It happens to be borne by the bar that's being open.
We're a unique town with a bar district that's got 6 bars in one block.
Yep.
And all 6 of them are paying taxes. And now maybe only one of them wants to do it. The other 5 might decide to, and that's their business
Well, it'll
decision.
depend
So
on
then
the
it's-
You know,
competition,
Right,
yes.
competition. That's just
Right.
what I've heard since this July 2nd Sunday liquor sales is, there's businesses that don't want to be open, but because the competition is there, they
You
have
have to be. Yep.
It's kind of one of them situations, we got gas stations in town that are closed on Saturday afternoons and on Sunday, but that's their choice. We don't restrict them or anyone else from being open 24 hours. Now we got another business that wants to have a little longer hour, but I'm trying to compare apples to apples, that's a business decision. If that gas station wants to be closed all day Sunday and they can make it, that's their decision. They can be open if they want. It isn't up to the council to tell them they can't. And that's kind of where I'm coming from.
And
So-
if you think about it too, there's bars out there that choose to close at 11.
Right.
If they want to close at 11, or if there's,
Yeah,
Yep.
there aren't the sales for the night, lock the doors at 10.
yeah. And I've talked to a few of the bar owners that what would be an increase if they did pay 300, even 750 on a good night, they'd have that covered in one night. One good weekend night, they can do that. Because I know a couple of the bar owners went and, she's not there and she sold the place. She was making $3,000-4,000 a weekend. So it was kind of like, okay.
Well, that's what I figure. It's like, the only time that this is going to have an effect is Friday and Saturday. I don't see people in bars until 2 the rest of the week anyway.
There's a lot of times you go through town at 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, and some of them are already closed
Yep.
because it's Monday and Tuesday. So I don't see it as a huge thing.
I guess my opinion is, although I'm not in favor of it that way, but I don't see any compelling reason why we can't. And it's not a public safety issue. Some of these people are driving off to another city and coming back again.
Right. And most of the,
Extra traffic at 1 in the morning is not something that's helpful either. So
and if it's, like Diane mentioned, domestic dispute, I think that's gonna happen whether they stay open another hour or not, because it's probably been fueling itself, I don't know. It's nothing that just all of a sudden snaps and creates because the bars are open an extra hour. So,
Has there been any feedback from the other bar owners that, besides the one that I expressed interest in us looking at it again, has anyone else basically come forward and said either they're for or against?
not to me. I don't know if anybody else has, but
I-
I think most of them realize it's a business decision.
I spoke to one bar that was against it, and I spoke to one bar that probably would not go against it, but would not participate in it.
See, and I know that was our discussion with Sunday liquor ordinance changing for the city, but when I had the discussion with not, and this was a business that gets their direction from somebody else. They don't get to make the decision as the owner anymore. So they were kind of bummed that we made that decision because the big box company right behind them is open, so that forces them to be. We have all privately owned bars in town, so they do have that decision, but it just, I don't know, it makes me uncomfortable forcing them to keep their doors open because the guy across the street is.
Personally, I do not think because of, there's quite possibly going to be an increase in their insurance premiums. If they're open later, if they serve food, then they've got that decrease, but that may be negated if they're open later serving alcohol. It's kind of, it's like I say, I talked to one that was dead set against it and one that wasn't dead set against it, but would not be staying open until 2 o'clock. So that's,
So we might pass this and see one bar.
and
decide to
those
stay
were
open
the
till
only
2.
2 bars I spoke with. You know, I spoke with a lot of citizens, and that was actually probably 70 to 30% thinking, well, what do they have to be open for? In the 30% percentile, some were talking about, well, people get off at midnight, want to have a couple drinks, but the bar is closing in about a half an hour, so you can't hardly do that. And it's all over the board. I mean, it's,
I did talk to one bar that went and said they knew all the pros and cons, you know, and they said it's gonna be their business decision if they stay open or not.
yeah.
And they know if they do, it's gonna be the extra costs and everything, but it's something that they didn't think government should have a hand in, you know, just like, you know, years ago, we came along and Sauk Center, when I was a kid, was closed totally from one end of town to the other on Sundays. And then pretty soon, one of them decided, well, I'm gonna stay open on Sunday, and I'm gonna capture that extra, and they did, and now you look at it, if you close this whole town from one end to the other, there wouldn't be, a lot of people wouldn't know what to do with themselves.
Used to have to go 4th on the 3rd for a 5th on the 4th.
So, you know, and the city didn't, I don't think the city made those judgments saying, yeah, it's okay for you to be open on Sunday. They just did it. It was a business decision. And I think that's where, personally, we need to go.
I agree. I mean, that's how I look at it. So, do we have a compelling reason, public safety or something, to say that they have to be closed at 1? I don't see that.
Is Alexandria open until 2?
I know Melrose has one bar that's open till 2, and I know that West Union has a bar that's open till 2.
Yeah, New Munich's open till
New Munich
2.
is open till 2.
I'm just.
I don't know about Alexandria, I don't.
I'm wondering about comparative size cities that would have, I know Alec is twice what we are, but just to see what type of issues they're running into if they are having 2 a.m. bar close.
I know Ely did not go with the Sunday liquor. The town of Ely.
Right.
That was kind of interesting, but.
Well, do I have a motion? Either to approve ordinance 774, amending liquor ordinance to allow sale of on-sale liquor until 2 a.m., or no action, leave the liquor ordinance unchanged, or table it for more discussion, or, you know, I'm looking for a motion either way.
I'll make a motion for no action at this time.
Okay, we have a motion to take no action at this time. Do I have a second? Do I have a second? Do I have a second? We don't have a second, the motion dies.
I will make a motion to approve ordinance 774.
Okay, we have a motion by Dave to approve ordinance 774, amending the liquor ordinance to allow sale of on-sale liquor until 2 a.m. Do I have a second?
Am I able to add on to that at all? I'm gonna make a second motion.
Okay, you're seconding it? Okay, and then
nope.
you can ask.
We have a motion on the floor right now,
We
so
got a
deal with
motion on
that.
the floor.
Okay.
You can ask Dave if he wants to amend it
So
or whatever.
my
but-
amendment would be that I'd like to allow the city to take a look at it again. Give it
after-
a year,
because,
Put a
yeah.
sunset on it for a year.
yeah.
So do we have 2 motions on the,
No.
It would be
No,
if
she's
Dave would
requesting an amendment. I'm willing to amend that, basically to say this is an approval for a year. That means that the council will have to look at it again in a year, because we'll have to decide whether it's continuing or not.
Actually, in about 10 months.
About
Yeah.
10 months
Yeah.
it'll have to be looked at.
10 months before the liquor
New
license
liquor
renewals,
licenses.
we would have to do that. Okay, we have a motion to approve ordinance 774, amending liquor ordinance to allow sale of on-sale liquor until 2 a.m. with the city looking at reviewing it
A
within.
trial basis for 1 year to be reviewed.
Trial basis for 1 year. And we have a second by Heidi,
I'll second.
okay? Is there any other comments or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 3 in favor, 2 against. Approve resolution 2017-42, canceling deferrals on assessments.
The city currently has on its books assessments that have been deferred over the years for either pending development or senior hardship. At the recommendation of the city auditors, the deferrals were reviewed by staff and submitted to the policy committee for further review. 4 of the assessments have been recommended by the policy committee to be removed from deferral and collected. And these are, the first one is for Independent School District 743. This was when Eastview Drive was done in 1985. This is adjacent to the back driveway to the elementary school, and the school was assessed for curb, gutter, paving, that type of thing. And it was assessed until developed. And the committee felt that development of the property for a driveway, tennis courts, and softball fields met the definition of developed, and the deferral should be canceled. And that was for $14,943.77. The second deferral was to Holy Family School. This was the project which was 2nd Street South behind the Holy Family School in 1989. The committee felt development of the property for playground met the definition of developed and should be canceled. And these were not for sewer and water, these were just pavement, curb, and gutter assessments. The third one was for Ag Power, which is John Deere. This was a project on 12th Street in 1991, and that was, the 12th Street went from Beltline Road to the west end where John Deere dealership is. And the property in question is located south of Beltline, or south of 12th Street, excuse me, or, yeah, south of 12th, between the freeway fence and 12th Street, there's a triangle piece of property that is now, I think is gravelled over, and it's their display area for their equipment. And so they felt that met the definition of developed, and the deferral should be canceled. And the last one is a senior hardship deferral, and it was located on 4th Street South. It qualified for a senior hardship deferral at the time of the project in 2013. The owner, who is Harriet Lomheim, no longer resides at the property, so no longer eligible for the deferral. So however, because the assessments are still currently being collected on this project, we can put the project, collect it back through assessments for the remaining 11 years at 4%. And that would be an option that we could give the owner. Her son now resides in the property. So I do have in your packet Resolution 2017-42, which cancels the deferrals on special assessments for those 4 individuals.
Questions?
And that would be after property owner. We have to send them a notification and go through that process.
So the deferrals are canceled and the debt is due.
Right, and it is canceled, but we do have, we would cancel it, we would let them know that it would be due, but there'll be a time frame for them, because we've got, like, the school is like a government unit that budgets like a year or whatever in advance, so they would probably have a time period before they had to pay it, but it would cancel it, it would no longer meet deferred status, and the county would take it off the cancellation. And we can either have it due with their property tax bill, but the school doesn't have property tax bill, you know, that type of thing. So that's why it makes it a little bit interesting when it's a nonprofit.
Thank you.
Do we have a lot of deferrals out there, or are these basically it?
After these 4 are canceled, then we have 2 that are more current, that are both, one is a senior hardship and one is a disability hardship.
Okay.
So they have specific signed agreements that said, in any of these events, if I no longer reside there, if I lose the homestead, if the owner is deceased or anything like that, that automatically becomes due. But these are some old hanger-oners out there from the early 80s,
Right.
you know.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Do I have a motion to approve Resolution 2017-42, removing 4 assessments from deferred status after property owner notification?
So moved.
Motion by Keith, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Diane. Any other comments? Call the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. Approve pay request number 1, airport reconstruction.
This is our first contractor pay request for the airport for the runway project. You know, our total bid amount for the contractor, which is Kramer Trucking and Excavating, is $1.9 million. This first completed to date of this bill was $119,129.75. We do retain 5% until after the project is completed. So what's due with this request is $113,173.26. And so that is what we are requesting to pay to Kramer Excavating at this time.
Questions? Concerns? Do I have a motion to approve the pay request to Kramer Excavating?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Dave, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Heidi. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. We have no unfinished business, we have no new business. And it brings us to our consent agenda. We have a schedule of claims, of unpaid claims, $275,181.57. Paid claims of $1,642.01, for a total of $276,823.58. We have resolution number 2017-43, accepting contribution from the men's card playing group of $182.64 to be allocated to the senior center. On behalf of the city, I want to thank the men's card playing group for that contribution. And we have a gambling application for exempt permit request from Pumpkins and Monkeys Preschool for a raffle on October 29th, 2017 at the American Legion Post 67. Is there any questions about the consent calendar? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented?
So moved.
Motion by Heidi, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Diane. Call the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. Now brings us to our informational items.
We just have a couple informational items. The Initiative Fund did send a thank you. As you know, through the Economic Development Authority, we contribute $1,000 every year to the Initiative Fund, and then they, in turn, try to support the city for economic development needs. Number 2, the racetrack property has closed. We've received the fund back into the TIF fund, or the EDA fund, where the money came out of, so that money would be now available for us to use for other purposes. For your information, a public hearing will be held on July 19th for the vacation of an alley adjacent to the Wobegon Trail between Ferry Lake Road and Lincoln. It's an old platted alley that never existed. It's right on the Wobegon Trail, but if you went to where it hits Ferry Lake Road, it would be back to your right. So it goes back that direction. And then Stearns County Parks, and I did tell you this in the Parks Report about the bike repair station that has been installed on the trail in Sinclair Lewis Avenue. And that's what I have.
Any questions about the informational items? Hearing none, that brings us to the end of our agenda. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
And
Motion by
second.
Heidi, second by Dave. Call the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. Meeting adjourned.